Hello everyone, my name is Richard and I'll be presenting this work entitled Temporal Partitioning Among Sympatric Carnivore Mammals in one of the largest Atlantic forest remnants. So, let's begin. First of all, how do mammalian carnivores coexist? Two species cannot occupy the exact same niche dimension or one would end up excluding the other. So, there must be some level of segregation of their niche, and for mammalian carnivores, spatial, trophic, and temporal are the most important dimensions. Spatial refers to the habit a species use. Trophic refers to the prey they feed on. And temporal refers to the time of the day a species is more active. This work focuses on the analysis of the species' temporal niche. Our first a priori hypothesis is that smaller carnivores would temporarily segregate with larger carnivores. This is expected as smaller and subordinate carnivores would reduce the likelihood of agonist encounters with larger and dominant carnivores by doing so. Our second hypothesis is that the carnivore activity patterns would significantly overlap with that of their main prey. By foraging at times when a prey is the most active, the predator would reduce the foraging effort, therefore maximizing efficiency. This study was conducted in a tropical forest of southeastern Brazil known as Rio Doce State Park, with an area of about 14,000 square miles. Also, an area at the south portion of the park composed primarily of eucalyptus plantations and native forest remnants. Data was collected using 30 camera traps, 15 within the Rio Doce State Park and 15 in the eucalyptus plantations. To analyze the degree of temporal activity overlap, we use the overlap coefficient index, with 0 means no overlap and 1 a complete overlap. For our main results, jaguars, the largest carnivore in a study area, overlapped greatly with pumas, but more at RD than at EP. With ocelots, we observed the opposite, but the overlap coefficient was still high. And the overlap with the three other smallest carnivores was lower compared to pumas and ocelots. At RD, pumas overlapped greatly with ocelots and, to a lower extent, with crab-eating foxes. At AP, pumas were more diurnal, so the overlap with ocelots and crab-eating foxes was lower, but the overlap was higher with tyras and South American coatis than compared to RD. Ocelots had a mild overlap with all the three smaller carnivores at RD and a lower overlap at EP. These are the results when the overlap coefficient between predators and a potential prey was statistically significant. Preys that are not potential for the given predator are represented with an asterisk. Tyras and South American coatis are not shown here as they are not known to feed on any of the prey species. Our first conclusion is that jaguars had limited temporal influence on smaller carnivores. We know that jaguars are in a low density in our study area, so we believe that is one of the reasons they may not temporarily influence smaller carnivores. Another conclusion is that puma activity seems to be more related to its prey. Several prey species overlapped considerably with pumas, especially deer, with a significant overlap in both our study areas. Our next conclusion is that even though ocelots and crab-eating foxes had great temporal overlap with larger carnivores, they differ on other niche dimensions. Both species are known to feed on smaller prey, making their coexistence more feasible. Another conclusion is that tyras and South American coatis had little temporal overlap with larger carnivores, and they also differ on other niche dimensions. Both species are mostly diurnal and are also known to have an omnivorous diet. Our final conclusion is that the temporal partitioning among mammalian carnivores in our study area was probably influenced by the temporal activity of their main prey. Also, some smaller carnivores do not segregate temporally with larger carnivores, and as a result, temporal partitioning with prey seems to be more important, as well as lower density of larger carnivores, such as jaguars. Nonetheless, further studies are required to confirm the hypothesis. After our findings, some knowledge gaps still remains. What are the carnivores eating? What factors in a finer spatial scale are influencing their habitat use? Trophic and spatial niche segregation are important mechanisms for mammalian carnivores and requires further investigation to fully comprehend how they can coexist in this isolated Atlantic forest fragment. If you want to know more about this study, please access the link on your screen. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them to my email. Thanks for watching.